Let's get into The Witcher, Joseph.
Uh,
You go ahead. Go ahead.
so the first episode ended, and my wife looked at me. Yeah, she was like, "What was that?" I'm like, "I know,
You know,
it was absolutely terrible." And I said, "We're gonna have to finish this series out like taking bad medicine. Just take it down the hatch and go." It was just, it's amazing that you started out season 1, and then I thought season 2 got worse, and then Blood Witcher came out, and that like fell off the cliff. But then somehow they cranked the car back up, loaded it all the way back up to the cliff, and then threw it back off with season 3 of The Witcher. Man, dude, it's just a discombobulated mess.
Jen is upset because you didn't answer the question. How much do I have to donate for Jay to call me daddy?
Oh, if you give $200, I'll call you daddy.
Jay's the name. That's pretty funny. I'm sorry. Keep going.
Yeah, it's just a discombobulated mess, man. I mean, it simultaneously, the pacing's off. It goes too fast and too slow at the same time. Things just drawn out. There's too many side characters, and each side character they have to include their background story, or not even their background story, just too long of a story on each character to where The Witcher isn't even the primary star of his show.
Yeah, so they pulled that same okie doke stuff like they did in the second season, where you get a lot of them in the first episode, and then they're like, "Oh yeah, never mind."
I guess it's just because he's leaving. Spoilers, by the way, we're gonna spoil the crap out of this. The costuming looked cheap, dude. There's that part where, oh man, I wish we had it playing right now, but they're going back to Redania and they're having some kind of ceremony, I want to say. And they start walking, and it just very much looks like a Renaissance fair. Dude, you know what I'm talking about, where people are dressing up as, knights and just, ladies and everything.
I pulled up this first scene because this is kind of a big problem with the show. In this first episode, where it starts with this guy who may or may, honestly at this point I just don't remember. He may or may not have been in previous seasons, but he's in an inn doing something, and he goes outside, and Henry Cavill's there. And Geralt just like slaughters these guys, and we're supposed to be like, oh, I think what they were trying to get across was just based on stuff that happens later in the show. And I wasn't even sure when this happened, but the idea being, why is Geralt murdering these people? The problem is that Geralt doesn't exactly care who he kills. So I was just sort of like, okay, is this supposed to be Geralt, or has someone done some trickery to make it look like him? And we find out 4 episodes later the answer to that question. So they just forget about it until it's relevant again. And this is like
They did. That's pretty much the entire season.
Yeah.
It was kind of like, what was that one scene in the the second or third episode when, what is it? It's in the second episode where they decide they're going to Aretuza, or is it at the end of this episode? Aretuza, you know what I'm talking about, where basically Henry's going to split up and go chase after Rience, and then Jennifer and Ciri's going to go to Aretuza.
Yennefer.
Yennefer. Sorry, what did I say, Jennifer?
She's a Jennifer.
My bad.
Whatever.
Yeah, I really could care less. This show's so bad. Yennefer and Ciri are going to go to Aretuza, and then Geralt is going to go chase after Rience.
Yeah, because this whole
for them just to go back to, for him to go back to Aretuza.
Yeah,
what was the whole purpose of that?
Oh, dude. Okay, so
for them to split up in the beginning. Anyway, we'll stay on track here.
So this first episode can basically be summed up as Geralt, Yennefer, and Ciri playing house for an hour. and them write like, and she's writing letters to him. And don't get me wrong, like, there's a piece of me that's just like, okay, I understand what you're trying to do. The problem is they seem to have just forgotten everything that happened last season. And I don't think that they ever fully deal with the situation of what Yennefer did to Ciri last season.
In a mature way, right? They don't really handle it properly.
Yeah, it's never
just, he has to get over it over time.
Yeah, she's winning him back over because they have this connection. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. Like, it really doesn't work for me. And it sucks because I was looking up the cast. I actually don't mind the girl that plays Ciri. There are moments in the show. It's not great. But there's like these little things in the show occasionally. It's typically when Geralt. It's always when Henry Cavill is there.
He elevates everyone else.
He does, and it sucks because he's even dragged down a lot by the season. I remember specifically. I don't remember what episode it was in, but he and I think Yennefer are sitting at a table. This is like the millionth time that people are sitting at a table talking. And it's like, it's the entire season of we're sitting around a table talking about something. And most of the time it's just people planning things to find Ciri and then not actually taking action to go do it. It's just like set up for 5 episodes straight. And it's infuriating. And then occasionally a monster shows up for Geralt to kill. Like they very lightly sprinkle it throughout the season.
It seemed like they just don't know narrative-wise what they're doing. It's like it almost seems like they were brainstorming ideas for this season and just left it at that. They threw some spaghetti at the wall of what to do, and things stuck in a discombobulated way. It's edited poorly. The editing is terrible in the show.
They're still doing the same stuff where it's like, here's a random brown castle.
Dude, and then it's like, here's Ciri and Yennefer together at Aretuza, and I thought so there's that scene where Ciri's riding on the horse, escaping from the wild hunt, right?
Oh yeah.
I'm like, I'm assuming this is like a vision or a dream or something, and she's trying to get the Geralt, and he comes and saves her. All of a sudden, the freaking Mortal Kombat people go away, and it's actually a legit thing. She left Aretuza, and I'm like, when did this?
Yeah.
And how did this happen? You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's and there's all these stories. So the Skoya, you have like the Skoyatel in this too. That goes just about nowhere. The lady from I think it was season 1 who lost her baby. It's like they're still on that. And it goes
Queen L.
Yeah, it goes back to what you were saying before, where it's like there's all of these characters, and none of this stuff has been resolved since. So we're sitting there, and it's like random character. And listen, I know that these characters are important in the lore. I understand that. The argument, it really isn't that they shouldn't be in the show. It's that a lot of them are getting way too much screen time. So, and I don't know if you know this, but and it was one of the things that I thought at the very least might be a more interesting arc with the elves is they've got it's actually Stephen Amell who played Arrow. It's his brother Robbie Amell. He plays the elf, that one elf that's like starting a coup, but he's butting heads with the queen. Yeah. So
the lead military commander, basically.
Yeah, and you're like, oh, this is kind of interesting, and like, oh, maybe there's actually going to be some like intrigue and betrayal, and then he just gets murdered in the 3rd episode, and it's like, all right, I guess we're done with that. Can you kill off a couple more characters? Yeah, and I was waiting around for something like that to happen, but dude, other than that, I am not over exaggerating when I say that most of the 5-hour running time of the first half of the season is people sitting around talking about Ciri, talking about Geralt, talking about nothing, and then occasionally they pepper in a borderline 2 minutes max action scene.
Yep, and I will say this. I do think that Henry and I think her name's Anya, the lady that plays Yennefer, they have good chemistry. I will say, yeah,
it's all right. It was better in past seasons.
You think so?
Yeah,
I thought it was pretty good. Like I felt more captivated in this when there was that kind of focus there. Even though in the back of my head I was like, because isn't it in the books and in the video game, it's supposed to be Trish that's his lover? Or am I incorrect on that?
No. So Yennefer was in the books. And then when the games came out, which technically aren't canon, but considering we had this conversation last time, I think that there's a certain argument for extended universe type stuff with the games and the potential for how they might be canonized. But in the third game, you get a choice to either go back to Yennefer or stay with Trish. Yep, or I think just choose neither of them.
And just go out on your own. But I enjoyed their chemistry together. I just felt like because everything was discombobulated and the writing so poor, that it just brings them down. Then of course Jaskier has to have, like, I guess he's a bisexual now. I don't know if he's that way.
Dude, oh my! They spent so much time on that stupid subplot. Dude, it was, he was irritating me. So I don't quite remember. I was gonna go back and listen to our review of season 2.
I reviewed it. I listened to it,
and I don't remember. I remember whether it was in the review or not. I've always been a little more like, oh, Jaskier's all right. Like, he's not as bad as people say that he is. Dude, I wanted him gone this season. He was unbelievably irritating every time he was on screen.
Right? And it's not the actor. I think the actor is good, like a good actor.
It's the direction. Yeah.
The direction, everything, like how he's written. Everything and everyone is so predictable and hardly captivating.
He's like a spaz in this season. He's constantly spazzing, like he's like, oh, I'm the musician guy, and then like they tried to give him this more like serious role as like a spy type character, but nobody takes him seriously. But he's not even using that to his advantage. He's stumbling into stuff, and they can't seem to keep straight the political dynamic of the series, because I'm glad that you were in the same boat as I was, because I'm sitting here going like, I don't know what's going on half the time. Like, I don't understand who is, like, what is everyone's end goal? Like, some of you want the North to survive, some of you don't, and you want Nilfgaard to take over.
I don't even think Nilfgaard is sure what they want to do.
Yeah, they
just like, we're just
the Emperor
told us this is what we need to do.
The Emperor has been menacingly hanging out in his castle for like 2 seasons. That's really all he does.
Yeah, that's really, it gives speeches to people. It's like after the first episode, the pacing and the narrative just tanks, and it just meanders along to nowhere. There's a war. So apparently there are people dying.
So
dying around. We don't have any sense of geography, culture, place, people groups. So nothing has any stakes or meanings. And the best parts are when Henry Cavill's on screen. But even then, there were some scenes with Henry Cavill to where it seemed like he was phoning it in. And I'm like, dude, I don't freaking blame you. I would just be phoning it in too, just to get out of this show. You know what I mean? And there was one scene in particular, I can't remember it now. I'll go back and watch it and talk about it next week, but or at least maybe the next time we talk about The Witcher. But I mean, the political dynamics aren't intriguing. What's going on with the wizards and witches and the political dynamics between the individual kingdoms, along with the mages, just in groups, just it doesn't do anything for me. It's like they're trying to be Game of Thrones, but it's like the CW version of Game of Thrones.
You're not wrong, and I swear we've probably said some stuff like that before, but they are trying really hard with that political intrigue, and it's so boring because what it seems to me that the writers of this show believe that, and I'm going to keep saying it because it's one of the most frustrating aspects of this season, is that they think political intrigue is people either standing around like out of quote unquote earshot, even though they're not. Like there's all sorts of weird stuff happening in the season where it's like, oh man,
Philippa looks like Isma from
is that the same
Emperor's New Groove?
Yeah, is that even the same actress?
I don't know, dude.
She's starting to look very non-binary. They have that awkward sex scene. Do you know what I'm talking about? That's with Philippa, right?
Yeah, no, yeah.
And the bob-headed dude, it's nothing. Yeah. It's the weirdest, awkward. She like casts a spell, and there's lots of moaning, and it's just kind of like, what is this? Like what?
Yeah. I do my best to skip that stuff, so it's just...
Dude, it is... I was just like, what are you doing? Who is like, I'm going to watch The Witcher, and that's what I want to see in The Witcher?
I don't understand it, dude. My whole stance when it comes to, sex and nudity in TV and movies, I just think it's completely unnecessary. I've never seen... or know of a reason where it makes sense, especially like that kind of scene. Even with what's his name? Oh man, Dijkstra being tied up and she's whipping him. I'm like, what is the point of this?
Yeah, they're just like, hey, part of Dijkstra is that he's got like a domination kink or whatever.
Fetish.
Yeah,
like,
and it's like, oh man, that really added to the character building of this character. Man, I'm so glad I got to know about that.
It's just awkward. It's like these people don't have any sense of writing ability and shame to, include stuff like that. It's just, it's all over the place.
Oh, this is probably,
and it's fun. Going back to Yaskier, I enjoyed him in the first season. The second season, he started to wane on me a bit. Not a ton, but just a bit. But then this season, he is, as you're saying, he's just there to be annoying, and all of a sudden he's bisexual now for some reason. That's it. Just to include it, like, hey, we need to get our ESG score up, guys. It's like, why? The show suffers from too many characters. That's the problem. I think we talked about it when we reviewed season 1, that the show and season 2 would be better with less characters so that they could focus more on Geralt. And I think when we talked about season 1 and season 2, we said Henry's the star of the show. What they need to do is just do a character study focus on The Witcher. That's what season 1 should have been. It's just a character study on Geralt so we get to know him. And then from there, not saying you can't introduce people along the way, but you have building blocks. You know what I mean? And you can build and build and build from there. But it's just... man, I don't...
Sorry, y'all.
People got in way over their head with this show. That's for sure.
Yeah, they absolutely did. There's a scene in the last episode where Yennefer goes into not Dijkstra, the other old white man.
Strogobor?
Yeah, Stragobor. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's
Stroganoff, that's what I call him.
He's got this cabinet. And she goes in because they're looking for evidence to prove that he's the one who's been causing issues and stealing apprentice mages from the academy and torturing them and doing all sorts of experiments, which I'll say, like, some of that stuff, at the very least in concept, is really cool. Like the weird, like, headless people, and then like their bodies are all connected together.
Yes.
It is a little, it's like, it's off-putting, and that's the kind of stuff that very much started to feel like The Witcher to me. Like, that was probably one of the best monsters in the season. Everything else was kind of just like a scaly, faceless enemy. Like, they weren't really that... There wasn't anything impressive about most of the monsters this season. They've definitely done better in the past.
Yeah, they have that CGI was still bad. It got a bit better. I think there was this one scene where I was like, okay, that's not so bad. But even their fight scenes and the fight choreography was just odd. Like, what was that one where the setup for Rience to lure him out? It's like Rience seems like, thinking about his character from season 2 and this season, he seems like a smart and intelligent guy. How and why would he fall for this obvious setup?
Yeah.
With Ciri just randomly being alone. And then also, all you need to defeat the Wild Hunt is what? How do you pronounce it? The ARD, ARD. Is that it?
I think so.
Yeah, that's all you need is ARD. That defeats the Wild Hunt. I'm like, did y'all not play the video games at all? Y'all know how hard they are to defeat?
Yeah, not easy.
No.
Oh yeah. That
it's just art. That's it. That's what gets them to go away. That's how you get the freaking outer world from Mortal Kombat to disappear.
Yeah. And that again, it goes back to what I was saying before about the fights in this, where I'm pretty sure it's still in episode 1, where they're in the maze and the monster attacks and they're all freaking out, and then Geralt kills it in about 30 seconds.
Yep.
And it's just okay. And, oh man, not to mention when they're on the boat in episode 3 or 4, whenever that was. Yes. And they Ciri is like, all right, I'm going to help you fight the thing, which I'm like, all right, cool. I despite a lot of what the problems that the show has, to be fair to it, Ciri was always supposed to be like the chosen one, you know?
Yes.
That was just a plot point in it. Now they've done a terrible job with it. It doesn't bother me that much that that's what they were going for, especially because when the two of them are together, when there's like a small glimpse of light where you're like, oh, it could have been so much better. There could have been a cool dynamic going on there.
Yep.
That father-daughter thing. We've talked about it in the past with different stuff. It's something similar to the newer God of Wars, where I think they call it the wolf and cub dynamic in storytelling. So you have the older, kind of grizzled, world-weary character, and then like the young pup who is like learning to grow and to become stronger and to, you know, eventually like take over or, you know, become better than the person who taught them. Like that, it's a writing trope. There's nothing wrong with it. It's something I've always really liked in storytelling.
I always like a father-son or father-daughter type storytelling.
Yeah.
I think because there's just not a lot of, you know, in our day and age, you don't get to see a lot of that. And so that's why it's pretty nice when you see a good version of it.
Yeah. So yeah, so you have that fight on the boat.
Yes.
And you're like, oh, all right. I mean, it's at this point, any sort of just like change from what they've been doing is completely welcome. But there's a point where Ciri gets knocked down in that fight and is on the ground and not moving, like she's not backing away from the creature. And this thing's standing there and doesn't do anything to her. After, by the way, it has failed to kill 2 other people on the boat after grabbing them. Just throws them away, grabs them and throws them to another part of the boat.
Oh, dude, speaking of which.
Oh my God.
A lot of conveniences in that fight. I think they did the choreography for Ciri, and that was bad. Yes, she's supposed to be powerful. I think they could have done. They at least will applaud the writing for attempting to try and show her power level in this season. I just think they did a bad job, and it was a constant, oh, Ciri, you're so powerful. Oh, you're so good. You just gotta control your emotions, Ciri, and just, you know, you get to who you are, and then you'll blossom and, you know, do right in the world.
My favorite was when Jaskier was leaving a room, and I don't remember who told him this, but someone looks him dead on and is like, Geralt is so lucky to have you. And he just looks like, I know, and like walks out of the room, and I was like, I hate so much of what this is. When they're on the boat and that other Jaskier came in, the other dude. Oh my gosh, and they couldn't.
I was like, no.
I know, and they couldn't even do us the pleasure of taking him out. because he's the first one that gets he gets grabbed, and I was like, oh sweet, and then he gets thrown to the other side of the boat, and I'm just like, this is what I'm talking about. So let's take, even though it is a very predominant aspect of The Witcher, we'll forget the nudity for now. The violence is so like toned down in this too. The blood is all CG and it looks awful.
Yes, it does.
It does. There's hardly any practical effects when it comes to any of that, and they don't do the typical thing. If the monster, especially in the world of The Witcher, if the monster gets you, you're probably dead. Yeah. There's a reason why the Witchers had to exist, and I'm pretty sure we talked about this during season 2, but they are specifically created to deal with the problems of the monsters, because the monsters are overwhelming typically, and I think a lot of it had to do with like the kingdoms didn't really want to use their own soldiers to deal with those tasks, and so people would hire the Witchers out because nobody else was going to do this for them, because the monsters are still really dangerous, and so they're on this boat. And it's like no one died. No one got killed by this monster, even though it gets on the boat. Really bad, dude. Yeah, it's
They're just going to have to be seeing the chiropractor for a long time.
Yeah, you got to hurry up and get through the scene so we can talk about Ciri some more at a table.
And talk about how great she is. Ciri, don't you know your own strength? You'll realize it too soon. I thought it was pretty funny, them going back to Fringilla. I guess I just didn't remember the end of season 2 that she was captured still.
She was the one who hides away in the body bag, right?
Yeah. But,
yeah, okay.
And that's what cracked me up is, okay, you see her friend pass out, and then all of a sudden, we go to another scene, then we come back, and she's being tossed down in the body bag she had hid there. And it's like, you mean to tell me, because she can't use magic, because she has the freaking Demaridian, is that what they said in season 1 or whatnot? The handcuffs on her to prevent her from using magic. And
I vaguely remember that.
Yeah, I just remember it from Yennefer. Well, so you mean to tell me like the guards didn't check? They couldn't tell that she wasn't? I don't know. To me, it just seemed. I know you're just in your head.
Simple. Like too easy for her to.
Yeah, it was just it seemed like a cop out. Like, this is a great way to get her to escape. And it's just like, really? Like, you mean to tell me those guards didn't check anything? Like, it's not like she could do something to stop her heartbeat.
Where'd she stick that guy too?
Yeah, all that stuff? Because I was assuming, okay, she didn't take his place. Maybe she just faked like she was dead.
Yeah.
But it's like, but then. I don't know. I just thought it was a bit weird how that was handled. Like, that just seemed like a stupid way to get her free.
Yeah.
To me, writing-wise. Yeah. Just lazy writing.
Yeah. And, I don't know,
Which about sums up The Witcher Season 3, lazy writing.
Man, I never thought that there would be moments where I was looking back at Season 2 fondly. But the fact that Season 2 at least has Kaer Morhen, has a lot of the other Witchers, Vesemir, I mean, I know the whole plot point with Yennefer. Dude, it makes... Okay, so remember how in Season 2 we complained a lot how it became the Yennefer show?
Yeah, it was just her going around whining about how she lost her powers again.
I borderline wish we had that back. At the very least, because, like, this is... Dude, there was at least some sort of, like, through line with this. And I understand that this is only part 1, but what was the point? I can't, dude, honestly, I can't wait to see the other half of this, because part of me wonders, it's like, could you have left out a majority of part 1 and just gone straight? Like, could you have done maybe episode 1, condensed 2, 3, and 4, and kept 5, and still gotten the same result in 3 episodes that you did in 5?
Yeah, I think it's pretty funny how... I think you're right. They probably could have, once we see part 2, we'll know for sure. But I think it's funny how they're releasing a part 2. Like there's supposed to be all this build up, and probably no one's like, yeah, I want to go back to that.
I don't think anybody cares anymore, man.
I don't think that cliffhanger cracked me
Oh,
up.
it was so bad. Oh, yeah.
Dude, I've been waiting to talk to you about that. What do you think about it?
Stregor's like, here's a knife to the Witcher's throat. And they're supposed to be like,
I think it was Dijkstra.
Oh, was it Dijkstra? Yeah, you're right. It was. Sorry. Again, I get the two of them confused because they look exactly the same.
Yeah.
Dijkstra puts the knife to his throat. And I went, oh, cool. I guess this season, or the first part of the season will end, like, maybe he'll kill him. No, it just ends with the knife to his throat. It was the most anticlimactic ending. It sums up that first half of the season, for sure.
Pretty much.
All of that in one thing where you're like, what are y'all doing? Oh, man, so many moments, too, where they don't show you. Okay, this is something we complained quite a bit about, we'll say criticized, that we criticized in Rings of Power, where there were certain moments from Rings of Power where it's like, why didn't we see that? Like, why didn't what? It seems like it would have been a cool thing. The one that we bring up that that was when we got that beef with Do Better about the tower, and then at some point between like episode 1 and 2 of Rings of Power, the tower gets taken over and all the elves become slaves.
Yes.
There is a similar thing that happens in this a few times where we are told about certain things or seeing the we get to see the aftermath. There's one specifically, I think it's in episode 2, where our title character goes on a hunt for a creature and we don't even get to see him fight it. We get the aftermath of it, and I'm like, oh, I'm so glad you guys decided not to show that. So, again, we can just listen to these people talk all the time.
Yep.
Standing around talking, walking, talking.
Is this like a budget cut decision?
It must have been. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I think there's an entire... So, Robbie Amell's elf character, who had a name in this season... I'm pretty sure he has some sort of like backstory as well. And they kind of talk, I think they kind of talk about it some, and I was like, oh man, that actually would be kind of cool to see as well. I was like, I'm sure we won't get it. I'm sure that we won't get any of the interesting moments in the show. Oh, dude, there's a whole conversation where Ciri and Geralt are talking about a part of the Elven rebellion that fails, just like utterly fails.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about, right? They're standing at the statue. Why did we not get that as a mini-series instead of Blood Origin? Right? I mean, don't get me wrong, they would have screwed it up. But you had a underhand toss to connect your series in a more potentially interesting way, to have like a very small thing to work with where it's like, oh cool, we're going to do something about an elven rebellion that fails because of a bad leader. Now, in the right hands, could have been an interesting story. Obviously I don't trust Netflix, and I mean, we saw Blood Origin, but
yeah, of course. They don't have a good track record that I could think of off the top of my head with fantasy shows. But I think the problem is that Netflix fails to understand why people love the books and the video game so much. You know what I mean? Because they don't seem to be making creative choices and changes that are necessary in order to adapt the story more effectively for television, right?
Yeah.
Instead, they're just retelling a wholly different take on the original story that's loosely inspired by the source material. Like there's no respect to it. It's just more like when we were talking about in the Rings of Power, people would mention Anduril, right? And just whatever freaking sword from this is whatever sword from Lord of the Rings, but there's like they're telling you source material, if that makes sense, but they're not showing you any source material.
Yeah, we get told a lot of things and shown very little of that stuff. I mean, man, again, this whole it's just the first 5 episodes of this it's got to be 85% exposition, just dialogue.
It's bad dialogue.
Yeah, all of the stuff with Jaskier, where his entire character arc is, I probably am in love with Geralt, but also here's this prince who, the whole point he's there is so that they can make out before the end of the 5 episode arc.
Right.
And it's it goes nowhere. You could have taken him out of the season and it wouldn't matter. And also, he is constantly showing up wherever Geralt is.
Yep.
In this massive world, it's just like, oh, y'all also happen to be. I mean, and I assume that maybe they are communicating in some way, or like there's some sort of because I think there's supposed to be some sort of network of spies.
Yep. With Radina.
Yeah, and Jaskier is a part of that, so maybe he does know. But it's one of those things where it all just seems like a coincidence most of the time when he shows up. And you're like, oh yeah, all right, yeah, Jaskier's here again, great. Like, here we go again.
Yeah. I just love that Geralt has faded into the supporting role when he's the beating part of the story. That's my favorite part of it, David. Was it yours?
Yeah, I sent you a message.
And Ciri is just a MacGuffin.
Yeah, she really has been completely reduced to the key to everything rather than being an actual character. You see little moments of them like remembering that she's a character where her and Geralt will get into arguments. And it happens in the first episode, I think, and then they pretty much drop it. Because she wants to go to the festival at the end of the episode.
Yeah.
And she does get to go, and Yennefer's like, see, she gets to be a normal girl. And that's kind of it for Ciri in the show this season so far.
The main storyline is Ciri's in danger, right? And so they leave her alone at every single opportunity so that the plot can move forward.
Yeah, well, and at least in the first episode, they're setting it up that way, where you at least get, okay, they keep finding us, so we need to set this up. And then they decide to split up, and Ciri just constantly makes really bad decisions. She hasn't learned by now that she probably shouldn't, leave the city or, go away from the people that are trying to help her. She's still doing the same stuff. Yeah, man.
It's just bad. Even the king of the elves, he's just there to support his lady. That's it. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
I'll do whatever you say.
Oh, you should probably go take a nap. Oh, I'm so worried about you. It's like, okay.
Let me fetch your water. Hold on.
Yeah.
Just at her beck and call. There's no, again, it's not like you have to have, you can endear brief characters to audiences in a way that works without having to spend 5-10 minutes on a character. It's just he has no agency. His agency is just her.
Remember, I'm pulling this up. People can see it in the troll room, but you remember this scene in the second episode? I forgot about this, where Ciri and Yennefer are with one of the other mages, and they're trying to get her help, and this guy with tattoos on his face comes into the store or whatever, and Ciri gets a vision of the guy and lets the child or little person or whatever go, and he's like, oh, you're gonna regret that, and then she kills him, and the other mage in here, she says something along the lines of, oh, you shouldn't have done that, he works for so-and-so, you'll be in big trouble now, and they never bring it back up.
Never come back to it.
It's never a plot point again. They bring Triss into a couple episodes just to remind you that she still exists in this show.
At least they Did the consistency of her burn marks.
Yep. Yeah, she still does have those. Jeez,
man, what a great example of how to squander a big opportunity.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they had that part where the Queen of Redania gets her head delivered to the king in a box. I think it's Redania, but I honestly can't remember. I totally forgot about the stuff with like the druid and the werewolf. Do you remember that?
Oh, so in season 2?
No, in season in season 3.
Yeah, so this season, yeah.
Oh geez. So they so Geralt finds a girl from the monster that I thought was pretty good in the season.
Taryn, I think was her name.
Yeah, and she like believes that she's Ciri. And they set this up as like this crazy plot point.
Yep.
That's going to be like I mean technically I guess you could say it really is important. I'm trying to get a good shot. Okay. And she's like, "Oh, I'm Ciri." And then the episode ends. And you're supposed to be like, "Oh my gosh." Well, then you find out like in the next episode it's like, "Oh, it was just a spell."
Yeah, it's like over with it like the first minute of the next episode.
And that really is a lot of this season, man. And I guess that's what I'm starting to understand what you mean by the show is both incredibly slow, but it's also moving through plot points really, really fast. Yep. You don't have time to wonder, oh man, I wonder what's really going on with this young girl. I wonder if, oh man, I mean, we know she's not Ciri, but like what's actually happening? And then they just answer the question 15 minutes later. And you're like, oh, all right, she's not Ciri. Okay, cool.
It seems like they haven't learned from any of their mistakes or any of the criticisms of season 1 or 2.
They doubled down. Sure. They doubled down and went even harder.
The timeline
on the other stuff. Yeah, I mean, well, at least the show seems to be linear.
How did we get here?
Yeah, the show. I think the show since season 2 is supposed to be linear. So they were like, okay, cool, we won't do a insane timeline anymore that doesn't really parallel at all. And I don't know if a lot of people remember, but they get Ciri's age wrong in the first season.
Yes.
There's like, it's something about, I think when Geralt first sees her, they say she's like 16 when in reality, I think she's supposed to be like 14 the first time he encounters her. I can't quite remember because it's been about a year since I watched season 1 and 2 again. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. Like again, the things that we wanted, we were like, all right, we want more Witcher doing Witcher stuff, and then they're like, nah, you can't have that. All right, cool. Well, can we get like an actual plot? Something interesting, some good political intrigue. No. It's like, okay.
Can we have some great character development and moments to where it makes you actually like the character, like some good character writing like we have in Arcane? No.
Can't have that either. It's like we can give you everyone telling the audience watching how everyone feels about each other.
No. It's Jaskier's bisexual now.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, okay. So I guess
that's what we could give you.
Hey, yeah. It's like, okay, look, we can't give you Geralt fighting monsters. We can give you Jaskier falling in love with another dude.
Why is that so important? It wasn't even integral to the main plot.
It doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. It's just a boring side quest, and it's like, it seems like this show was either written by a stupid AI, or it was written by people who had ADHD. They couldn't stick on one thing.
People keep talking about the whole, the AI probably wrote this. It's like, no, I think it would be better. Because typically that stuff, they pull from the source material. You understand what I'm saying? Like, when you go to ask like the AI questions, it actually like looks up what you're asking for.
Yeah.
So if you were like, hey, write me a script for season 1, episode 1 of The Witcher, and then you could type in like based on the books, based on the first book, and I almost bet you might get something better.
Probably would.
You know,
it wouldn't be hard to get something better than this though. That's a low bar, David.
Bruh, I just need something, man. I mean, I can't. I'm pretty sure I know where the second half of this is headed, and it's.
So you want to give some predictions?
Well, I don't know. I got in trouble last time I talked about this.
All right, spoilers again. We'll be nice and say it for another time. Now again.
Geralt has a date with the pitchfork coming up, more than likely. If a lot of
with Abby,
the theories, if the theories are true, in the books, he has a pretty unheroic end, which I think was on purpose. And then he gets revived in the games, and he loses his memory, and that's how they go down the road of kind of being able to address his relationship with Triss versus Yen, and you getting to make the decision about like what you want to do from that point on. Even though Yen doesn't show up till the third game, if I remember correctly, which I always thought was weird, because you spend 2 games with Triss, and then all of a sudden Yen shows up. It's so funny. Like last time we talked about the spoilers, people got really mad. Yeah, we had like maybe 100 subs at the time, and so I was like, "Screw it, I'll leave it in. It's not like anybody's gonna see this anyway." And then it kind of did really
for us at the time.
And all these people were so mad at me, and I'm like, y'all, this book series and all 3 of the games have been out for years at this point. It is talked about in obviously the last book and in all 3 of the games. Like if you have and like people are in there and been like, man, I haven't even gotten to that yet. It's like, look, you are past the point. And it's not like, as far as spoilers are concerned, it's not like it really matters that much. If that's the thing that completely ruins you either playing the games or watching the books, it's just like, I don't know where your priorities are. You clearly must not care that much about trying to get into this stuff. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous. All that being said, yeah, that's probably where they're headed with it, which at this point, I mean, like, put him out of his misery, man.
Yeah.
Like,
for real.
And then I heard, I think today, it might have been Yellow Flash, or somebody was saying that the next season with Liam Hemsworth is going to be meta commentary, and I don't know what that means. And
I'm not sure either.
There's like part of me, and I've said this before, I'll probably check it out of curiosity. Probably not going to watch the entire thing because I barely could after I got to about episode 3, I almost messaged you. I was like, I need one more day. I was like, I need an extra day. I gotta spread this out a little bit. But then I was like,
take it down the hatch, man.
Oh, dude, I mean, it just down the gullet for 5 straight hours. Like, oh.
I know, man. It's so bad. We know how the last 3 episodes are going to end. Geralt's
there's only 3.
There's a bunch of enemies.
There's only 3 left?
I think so. I think 3.
So we're
4,
past the
5.
worst of it, at least. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
So he's probably going to have to slay a bunch of enemies to try and save Ciri. That, of course, will be taken from her because Yen's going to aid in with her magic. You know? And so, I mean,
I wonder if they'll. I actually wonder if they'll keep the ending of how Geralt dies, or if they'll. Whoops. Well, Netflix just crapped the bed. Or if they're gonna change it up.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see what they do. I think seeing Vilgefortz as the main villain that was behind everything was like, well, yeah, no duh. I knew that before. Like, how could they not figure this out?
Oh,
you know what? It just seemed too easy to figure out.
Yeah. And dude, one of the things that drove me crazy is it happens in the first episode, right? So they do the whole it's right after they talk about the elven statue, and they're setting up the fire mage and they get into this big fight. And so they all start fighting, and then the dwarves come out, and then the Scoia'tael show up, and everyone's fighting everyone.
It's so random.
It's chaotic, and you're like, all right, whatever, this is happening. And then Geralt jumps through a portal to fight the mage. They have this kind of back and forth or whatever, and then he breaks his hands, and instead of killing him, grabs his sword and jumps back through the portal. Because, for those of you that aren't aware, had he killed him, you wouldn't have needed most of the other episodes for this season.
Yep.
Because for some reason, the thing that he needed to accomplish in that moment, right? Geralt has no problem taking people out. In fact, once he jumps back through the portal, he takes quite a few of the Scoia'tael out before they retreat. He doesn't think twice about protecting the people that he cares about, but the most important enemy to them in the moment, he just breaks his hands. And then I don't remember who it was.
Doesn't kill him.
Yeah.
He would still need to go to Aretuza to figure out who was truly behind everything, but he was
his friends,
second big villain.
His two friends that get burned alive in their home wouldn't have died if he had done that.
Oh yeah. It's just when he finds out, he's just completely unbothered.
He's kind of oh,
they never go back to it.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. And I know Witchers, they don't have a lot of emotion. But there's not even kind of it's not even he's oh man, I actually kind of like
this
them.
One does.
Yeah. And there's one of the things that's interesting about the games is that they mess around a little bit with how true it is that Witchers can't have emotion. And they kind of leave it up to the player a little bit. Geralt is still very dry. He has a very dry sense of humor, works really well. But there's still that, okay, so can he still feel a certain way about people? And, it's actually kind of one of the better moments in the show where Ciri's oh yeah, we're teaching him how to smile or whatever, and Henry Cavill kind of smirks just a little bit, and he says something oh not quite there yet or whatever, and I was oh okay, it's there's a little playful banter between the two of them. It's fine, but yeah, he's got these people who have helped him, I'm pretty sure, through multiple seasons. They get burned alive by the guy that he forgot to kill.
Yep.
It's just oh, that sucks.
That would
anyway,
a lot of issues.
Yeah. All right. I don't have anything else to say about this, man.
Nah, I don't either.
It is.
I'm not looking forward to watching part 2, but we will do it. We will brave it for y'all so y'all don't have to go through the sludge.
At least it's only 3 episodes.
Yeah, that's true. And also, by the way, I think season 2 of The Rings of Power will be coming out next year. And mid to late 2024, dude. Because they finished filming, I think, sometime in June. So, barring reshoots and things like that, I think the leading rumor is that it will end up coming out in 2024. So, yeah, I'm definitely excited for that.
Oh, no.
But probably not for the right reasons, as other people would be.
I just
show after show after show. And then we have, now we get to look forward to Narnia coming out.
Harry Potter.
Oh yeah, Harry Potter.
At some point in the next year or two, I would guess. They're gonna.
I have some hope with HBO doing it.
So I don't know. Have you used Max? I know it's not necessarily an indication of the writing of Harry Potter, but have you used the now that they've combined? Have you used it?
Yeah.
It's trash.
You think so?
Yeah.
What do you find trash about it?
They got rid of a bunch of features of HBO Max, so they only give you a small selection of their recently added.
Yes.
Occasionally, depending on where I'm using it, the screen gets messed up and I can't see the titles fully. It's half cut off on the screen. It just doesn't scroll down correctly. I know there were a couple other things that were bugging me about it. Oh, there was a bunch of stuff that was definitely on Max or HBO Max, and then when they switched over to Max, they got rid of a bunch of stuff, and now they're starting to put it back on. it's really inconsistent with a lot of that. And I've been I've just been really frustrated with it. And then like they really need to separate on their homepage so on their homepage is where they should have the selected titles of Just Arrived, and then they need Just Arrived for television, movies, and then whatever other categories they have, because all of it gets clumped into one now. And so if you have a whole bunch of new TV shows that come out, that'll take up most of the screen, and you're like, I don't know where the movies are. Like, I don't care about any of these garbage television shows.
Yeah.
So the one thing I'm really happy about, though, is that they put diners, drive-ins, and dives on there. Super guilty pleasure show.
Oh, yeah?
Love that show.
Well, I did think of one other little problem I had with The Witcher.
Okay.
And it goes back to Ciri. And it's that she's just kind of there. She's not really important plot-wise.
Yeah, it's weird that they seem to have taken away a lot of her agency in this. This season
she's just kind of like inertia in her actions in the show. Like, she's an important element of the plot, but she's just there. It's like kind of like the Infinity Stones.
Other than stuff like this, where she's on the boat, or that she's doing like training or whatever. But you're right, like it's not important plot wise, like you could argue in the second season, and really even in the first season, even though he was just trying to find her in the first season mostly.
Yeah. Well, even then, even with her fighting skills, it's like they're trying to show her as a great physical fighter, from what I gathered during her training, instead of a person who's using her agility and magic and swordmanship in a flexible way to really, just kill everyone, destroy everyone. Because the actress is thin and tall, so it would make more sense to focus on her agility and her magical side, using that as her primary strengths in combat rather than physical strength. Did you get this?
She can literally. Well, I don't know if it's really canon, but in Witcher 3, she can she borderline can teleport around and fight. And it's pretty cool. And yeah, I agree. Like, yeah, she's not supposed to be like a brawler. She is supposed to use her abilities to help her win in fights. And she's supposed to be good with a sword, I mean, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that she's from a magical perspective, she's really strong. And yeah, they don't really combine much of that. And when she gets the opportunity to use her magic, she just gets one-upped by Yennefer, which kind of makes sense, but at the same time, I'm like, man, it'd be nice. I mean, she's here, man. Give her a win. Like, let her accomplish something from that.
Trying to show her some progression in her training and everything, not immediately coming out of the gate swinging. So props for the writers on that, but still, it just...
And she gets her win on the boat,
Yeah, she does.
For however you feel about it.
I really hope in part 2 we get to go back to Mortal Kombat's Outer World and see.
Oh, dude, yeah. We didn't get enough of them in this one. Their costumes still look like garbage.
Yeah, they do.
But
oh no, he left a Morgul helmet or whatever it was, gauntlet.
Oh yeah, he left some piece of armor behind, and it's like, oh my gosh, it was actually real. And it's like, wait, were we supposed to think it wasn't? It's like that's how the Wild Hunt. That's what they are. That's how they act. We talked about this in the season 2 review. Their designs in the games are so good.
Yeah, they are.
And they have sort of everything sort of goes frost and really cold and death-like when they're around. And they have like hellhounds and I don't know. It's like I think that a lot of people would have been fine if they had taken a little bit more from the games to add to this. And they couldn't do it, man. I don't. This shouldn't have been that hard.
No, this should have been an easy layup of a show. You know what I mean? But when you have people who actively dislike the source material, this is what you get.
Yeah, and your lead actor too, like
yes.
Smokes. And just to be clear for anybody, I mean, I probably should have said this at the beginning, but like, Henry Cavill leaving this season isn't the reason this season sucks.
Nope.
It doesn't have anything to do with him leaving. Whether he was staying on for season 4 or not, if this was what we were getting, regardless, it's still bad. So
I wonder how much this season cost them per episode. Okay, so
I don't know.
Okay, I'm seeing it here. Apparently, the budget for The Witcher is $15 million per episode.
Wow. And there's what? It's supposed to be 8?
Yep. Yeah, they overspent.
That's pretty expensive.
Yeah, they overspent.
Where did that money go?
I don't know. It cost them, according to Forbes, basically $319 million. It cost Netflix $319 million to get the Witcher franchise. So,
well,
they'll talk about spending money down the drain.
Yeah, and they're gonna if we keep getting more seasons, they really are gonna try to just like obliterate this thing, you know?
Right. I'm not watching after this season. I'm not doing it.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see if we actually get it. Out of curiosity, I just want to know.
Maybe we have to.
Well, I don't know.
We're masochists.
Yeah, we'll see. It just kind of depends. I'm not against talking about it and maybe just kind of being like, at best, what I would probably do is kind of just hop around through the episodes and just be like, okay, let's see what this is. What's going on here? What did they do? What's like the big thing that is there are they going to do an explanation for why Liam Hemsworth is now the Witcher instead of Henry Cavill? Is he going to be just even more of a background character in his own show? Like what?
Right.
I am curious more than anything. It's a morbid curiosity.
It'll be like, just sit there like a good boy, Liam, and do as you're told.
Yeah, and that honestly, man, I wouldn't be surprised if that conversation was had.
Yeah.
So
here's $15 million, so you do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, all right. And it sucks, man. I mean, like you got his brother who's absolutely knocking it out of the park. With I mean, not with the most recent Thor movie, but like the Extraction series is great. Chris Hemsworth, I think, has really become sort of a, we had talked before about the kind of the death of the kind of like Hollywood superstars, and I think Chris Hemsworth, given the right opportunity, could be that.
Yeah.
He's already got a lot in his like back catalog that puts him there. I mean, if he takes Extraction and really like boosts that into doing some other really high profile stuff, I mean, he's got the ability, man. He really needs the right teams behind him to get him there in the same way that Tom Cruise is. And I'm not saying it will happen. I'm just saying like he's probably set up in a better position than most actors right now because people like him. The problem is that I think he's trying to potentially retire or work less because he's got or he doesn't have
early onset.
He doesn't have it. Yeah, he's worried about it because it runs in his family.
But
Jake D. Triss is better. Did you see the poll I put up?
Yeah, I did. I voted. I like Yin.
Sorry, y'all. Trish is better, but that's fine.
We're divided. He likes Trish.
Y'all,
I like Yin.
Apparently, y'all just love women who gaslight you. So, that's great.